Hi, I'm Claire Pillsbury, and welcome to Cooking with Claire. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen in Southwest Michigan. I'm really excited to get this project off the ground. It's been a long time coming. Certain days, I would say to myself, what the heck was I thinking? Why am I doing this? But I'm really glad I persevered. It really is a lot of fun, and I hope you'll have fun with me. I've watched a lot of cooking shows, and they run the gamut from just live stream, so you're watching the entire time that someone's cooking, to the new kind of videos on Instagram that are very, very fast and very, very short. So you're only watching the cook's hands and the ingredients. And I guess that's okay for the younger kids. And they do like things a lot faster, but to me, it's not very fun. I like to have fun when I'm cooking. It can't always be fun, but with me, if you're gonna watch this show, it's gonna be a little bit slower, but we're gonna have a lot of fun. And while we're at it, if you have some shot glasses nearby, fill them up with your favorite alcohol. And every time in this first video, I say the word so, take a drink, and I promise you in 10 minutes, you'll be feeling really good. I have a lot of videos that I've done already and edited and put together, but then at the last minute, I heard someone say on a how to start a cooking show video, don't start with your best videos or the most involved ones, like my sauce and my meatballs, because you don't have a lot of viewers yet. You want to save those for later. So I threw together, and you'll see when you watch them, I literally threw them together. So I put together some shorts, that's the cool word for it, with just some very short recipes, very few ingredients to get started. And because my website is coming soon, and I'm excited for that, that's where I'll link the recipes. And for now, with just these shorts, I'll put the recipes in the first comment or the first few comments, and they're gonna be so few ingredients, it won't be hard for you to write down. The idea of this cooking show started in a hospital room where my husband was inpatient. He was in the hospital a lot, and we just made the best of it. We actually had some fun sometimes, and we had great conversations. So when the idea of this came up, we brainstormed and tossed around some ideas, and then I just took off with it. I really wanted Jerry to be with me in every video, but 2 years ago on this day, he left this earth. So he wrote about his philosophy about illness and disease, so that it is neither wholly beneficial or wholly detrimental. It can be both. And my dear friend, Jack Ford Teach, helped me through my grief with this same idea, the power of and, so that you can have attached more than one feeling or emotion to an experience in your life. Just like parenting, anybody that parents tells you it's an awesome experience, but it's also very frustrating. And you can experience both of those feelings, and it's okay. So this is a very, very rough day for me and my family, but I also thought it was a wonderful day to pay tribute to my husband of 35 years. So Jerry Pillsbury, I dedicate this project to you. Swim free, my love. So Jerry, I know if you were here, I would say to you, let's do this. And you would say back, let's do it to it. So let's get started making sauteed zucchini with fresh onions, basil, and romano cheese. This is one of those recipes where less is more. This recipe does not take very many ingredients, but the taste is amazing. And people always ask me how I made it and what's your recipe. And I always have to laugh because it's one of those things, and you probably have these recipes too, where you just make it, you're not paying much attention, and you eat it all the time. Then someone new comes along and they love it. So are you ready? Let's have some fun. So here's everything you need to get started. A bunch of zucchini, some fresh basil leaves. These are the small fresh onions I got at the farmer's market. I don't know if you can find them where you are, and we can only get them at the very beginning of our growing season, obviously, because then they turn into full-size onions. Olive oil, salt, pepper, a cutting board. I always get out a paring knife and one murder weapon, a bigger knife, and a pan, and I like the kind with the lip on the side so that I can get more zucchini in there and it doesn't fall out when I'm stirring it. So I went over and washed all the zucchini after I cut the ends off. Make sure you dry it really well, because from here you're going to put it into the frying pan or saute pan, whatever you want to call it, and you don't want any water to splash on there. And one way that I do this is to, when I cut them up, I put them in the pan, and then I throw it all in the pan, so that way I can make sure that it's gonna fit in the pan. I don't wash onions. Do you wash onions? Let me know. I just make sure that if there's anything slimy on the outside, I take that off. Maybe I'll take off this first layer. Now once you clean all those up, I'm just gonna slice them like this. Then I'm gonna cut up the basil. I like to cut up basil by putting all the leaves on top of each other. Just cut right into them. This way just saves a lot of time. Put it right back in the prep bowl. So now I just need to go grate some cheese. So here I am grating the cheese. It's not my favorite part of the process, but there's not one kid here that I could guilt into doing this for me. And my hands just get tired after a while, but I'm forging ahead. I don't always like this for pasta on the top of a pasta, because the finely grated I think is better for pasta. This won't always melt on pasta. This will melt in the pan. I'm not going to actually put it in anything. I'm just going to take it like this over to the stove. But if you're putting it, if you're storing it, then it makes it a lot easier. I just fold it up like this and pour it into whatever bowl or container you're putting it in. Next, we're going over to the stove. So here we are. Here's the fun part over at the stove. I think most people will tell you that once you have the prep work done, it's a lot more fun. Although sometimes I enjoy cutting things up. It's a little relaxing. So I always like to saute things on medium heat so I don't burn anything. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. I'm gonna call that about a half cup. I'm gonna let it heat up a little bit. I put the zucchini back into the colander, and now I'm gonna throw it in. These beautiful sweet onions go next. And I'm gonna toss that around a little bit. I turned it up a little bit because I couldn't hear it. And then it'll take too long. Just gonna move it around a little bit. I'm just gonna sprinkle some salt over the top. And shake some pepper. This is fresh ground pepper. And if only she would have paid attention during that reading class, she would have realized that the label on that pepper said coarse ground pepper, not fresh ground pepper. I think this just tastes just as good as if you were doing it with pepper grinder. And much less work. So it started to sound like maybe my heat was a little high because it was frying. The sound of the frying was a lot, so I turned it down a little bit. You just keep tossing it around. Gonna add the basil and the cheese at the very end. This smells so good. You can add garlic to this if you want. I just like the onions and the zucchini. When people come over my house and I'm making this, they always say the same thing, what smells so good? But it's interesting because there's so few ingredients and sometimes that's all it takes. Do smells sometimes remind you of things or bring back memories? When I walked in the house and my mom was making this on the stove, it was summer to me because she always went into her garden and picked the onions and the zucchini right out of her garden and made this. And it's so good. I just like the farmer's market because I've tried growing my own vegetables before. It was not very successful. And I love the farmer's market and I love the social part of it. I love seeing what all the different farmers have to offer. So that's my excuse for not having my own vegetable garden. The only way I can tell if it's done is if I taste test it. I'm going to show you what I do after this. So it's probably going to cook a little bit more. So I like it a little on the crunchy side because after I'm going to cover it and put it on, take it off the heat. So it's going to cook a little bit more. And this is perfect. This was about 12 minutes. Your stove might be different and you might like it a little mushier or you might like it a little crispier. So it's kind of up to you. So now in the last minute or so, I'm going to put some of the cheese in there. I always just have to look at it, so I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants and measure it as I go. So that was about a half a cup. And move it around real fast so you don't burn the cheese, and then turn it off. Then I sprinkle in the basil. I don't want the basil to be too wilted, so I put it in at the very end. And again, it's going to cook some more, as you'll see. So I've turned off the heat and moved all that cheese and basil around. Then, because I like a lot of cheese, I'll probably put another half cup on top. So now I'm going to cover it and put it on the back burner and leave it there until we eat it. This is a great way to do it because when I'm having company and when I do this over the summer, I always have like 5 different kinds of vegetables and some grilled meat. So this one you can make about an hour, hour and a half in advance and just leave it on the stove. It'll be okay. If you are going to let the zucchini sit for a while before you eat it, hold off on putting the cheese in until you eat it. So put the basil in at the last minute, but hold off on the cheese. And then when you're ready to eat it, warm it up, then add the cheese. Either way you do it, you're going to have to cover it and let the cheese melt for a few minutes. So this is what the zucchini looks like after you've left it sitting and all the cheese melts on top. It's so beautiful and so flavorful, and it smells so good.
Give Grandpa another kiss. Okay, do it again. He needs lots of... Winnie, can you give Grandpa a big hug? Oh, you love your grandma.